So today we're going to learn how to make maple syrup. So first things first, we already have our buckets on the trees with the taps. But to start, we would first drill a hole into the tree. Come on over and I'll show you. First, we would drill a hole into the tree, and then we pound the tap into the tree. We would pound this with a little hammer right here into the tree. And we see the sap is dripping out of the tree. So it's not syrup that comes out of the tree, it's sap. So once the sap fills the bucket, we take the lid off of the bucket and we go around and we collect the sap. So we're going to fill this bucket with all of the sap. So now that we have our bucket full of sap from the smaller buckets into the trees, we're going to take it and dump it into this tank where we're going to drive through the woods to get all of the taps and fill it with sap, and then we'll take it down to the sugar shack and boil it down there. I guess I can. Are you ready?
Yeah, it's going already.
All right, boys and girls, so I'm here to explain. So we only tap trees in the spring. This is because the weather starts to break, it gets a little bit warmer, which makes the sap run out of the trees. When it's super cold, it kind of freezes up and the sap doesn't run. So during the day, when the sun's shining and it gets warmer, the sap starts to run out of the trees and into the buckets, but at night, when it cools, it freezes up. And that is what makes great maple syrup. Alright, boys and girls, so after we load all the sap from the trees into the tractor, we drive the tractor down here with the tank, and we move the sap from the tractor's tank into this sap tank. The sap will then run into the sugar shack, where it begins to boil, and that is the part we will show you next. Alright, so once the sap is from the outside tank, it runs into the sugar shack through this white tube and runs into the evaporator. Mr. Hamilton here is going to explain more about where the sap goes after that.
Hi kiddos, how are you doing? I'm Gracie's dad. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our syrup operation here. So okay, the sap comes in out of that big tank outside and comes in the evaporator here. And inside there's a series of tubes called a preheater. It preheats it up to not quite boiling, but it's super warm. And then it comes out of the preheater into this float. And when it comes out of there, it's hot. It's not boiling, but it's super warm. It goes back to the back pan, and it's a baffle pan, so it circulates through. Actually, on the other side, it circulates through, and as it gets heavier, it comes out into the front pan. This is called the finish pan. This is a float, so it regulates the levels. It comes in and goes through these baffles, I guess, and as it gets to the other side, it comes out here. There's a gauge that we watch to tell when it's the right consistency for syrup. Once it reaches, actually it's number 7 on here, then we open this valve and we drain it into this old milk can, stainless steel can. From there it goes in to Mrs. Hamilton. She filters it twice, and then she bottles it, and then it goes to the table for the pancakes. Drink it through one end.
All right, boys and girls, so we're taking the syrup into the house for the last step. Come on out. As we walk, I'll tell you about a little bit more about the syrup. So, boys and girls, this jug that is full of syrup, is 5 gallons. So to make 1 gallon of syrup, it takes 40 gallons of sap. All right, so let's keep heading into the house since we know our 40 gallons of sap makes 1 gallon of syrup. So we're gonna go head on into the house and we'll show you the last step of making this syrup, putting it into bottles for the consumer. Okay, boys and girls, so here we are in the kitchen with our 5 gallons of syrup for the last step. Here we have Mrs. Hamilton to share with you what goes into the process for the last step.
So as we come into my kitchen, I have my pot ready. Miss Hamilton is going to pour the syrup into my container. She's so strong. So after it's in here, I'm going to turn on my stove and continue cooking it until it reaches a temperature of 219 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 7 degrees above boiling for water. I'm going to get some of the film off the top and some of the yucky stuff. And then when it's 219, I'm going to dump it through my filter into another container that I don't have set up here right now. And it will get all of the bugs or any tree leaves or anything that might be left in it out. We reheat it again to 190 degrees, and then we scoop it out and bottle it into our syrup bottles. We use a funnel so we don't burn our hands, fill them up, and then when it's all done, it comes to you, the consumer.
So Mrs. Hamilton, do you put any extra like sugar or fruit or anything into it for that really sweet taste?
Nope, the sweet taste comes from the maple trees and just a little bit of love.
All right, thank you for sharing. And that's all, boys and girls, for our last step in the how to make maple syrup.